Regardless of what kind it is, the microbe always works only on the command of a conflict resolution, which is called vagatonia. We always have the microbes around us, on us, and in us. You are probably sitting at a table right now. If you take a swab of that tabletop, you're guaranteed to find microbes there too. So we are indeed not sitting in a sterile room. A sterile room would mean the absence of anything living. And I don't know of any sterile room in nature. There is no such thing. Creating such a sterile room would be highly complex. I have also never been in a sterile room. I am always surrounded by microbes. They also say microbes are ubiquitous. They are always available everywhere. But they only work on the command of conflict resolution, which is called vagatonia, that phase when I get tired and limp and sick. Out of 100 patients who come to the doctor, 80 are in a healing phase. And the healing phase is also when the microbes are at work. In his time, Pasteur said that the microbe makes you sick. Man is healthy when he has no microbes, but sick when he has some. This idea is the foundation of conventional medicine, to this very day. That's a whopping 150 years. Like the church, there's no progress. Perhaps it is also because this is very lucrative, a business based on fear, because Pasteur's idea has long been disproved. However, even now, the conventional doctors argue unwaveringly on the side of Pasteur and say that the microbe causes the healing phase. This is like pointing out that when the garbage collector comes, it usually stinks. But would we do away with the garbage collector so that it would no longer stink? It's nonsense. We live in symbiosis with the old brain-controlled microbes, fungi and fungal bacteria or mycobacteria. Our brain has a code for each type of microbe. Yes, your brain turns them on when you need them in the healing phase, after resolving a conflict. And at the end of the healing, when you don't need them anymore, they're turned off again. The task of the fungi and fungal bacteria is to clear away tissues. And they can only clear away. Whereas the bacteria, they can do both. They can break down and build up tissues. In a splintered fracture, for example, there are bone splinters embedded in the tissue. On the one hand, the bacteria help to recalcify the injured bone tissue. But at the same time, they also clear away these bone splinters in the tissue. So bacteria can do both. Only viruses cannot do anything. Because they do not exist. As I mentioned before, the squamous epithelium tissue repaired under swelling, and without microbes. The old brain-controlled fungi and fungal bacteria, I need them already during the conflict, in the conflict active phase. These, under command from the brain, multiply in synchrony with the tumor itself. The prostate carcinoma gets bigger and bigger. Or the breast cancer, controlled by the cerebellum, the node becomes bigger and bigger. And synchronously, the fungal bacteria multiply at exactly the same rate. However, these microbes are not yet active, they do not work, and they do not yet have a metabolism. This is the phenomenon observed with dark field microscopy, in which you can tell, from the microbes in the blood, that there is cancer somewhere in the body. What's happening is, that nature already has conflict resolution in mind. In the yellow group, colorectal cancer, lung cancer, or in the yellow-orange striped group, breast cancer, skin cancer, and melanoma, nature is counting on us to resolve that conflict. For this reason, I don't have forever to resolve it. Here, the clock is ticking. I have to solve the conflict. Mother Nature is expecting that this conflict will be solved. With the resolution of the conflict, the cell division stops automatically. The tumor cells differ genetically from normal intestinal villus cells or mammary gland cells. That's how they're recognized by the microbes to be degraded tuberculously. If I don't have microbes, then this tumor remains, and that's not good. How come I don't have microbes? No antibiotic makes my microbes go away. Antibiotics actually have a sympathicotonic effect. In fact, antibiotics belong to the cytostatic group of drugs. Yes, that antibiotic is a little chemo drug. The patient now has cold hands, and he is lifted out of his vagatonic healing phase. The microbe automatically stops working, because the microbe works only in vagatonia. But in the next healing phase, they are already working again. And then I get the next load of antibiotics. So, once I have the microbe, I never lose it again. I can only prevent it from working, by taking sympathicotonic substances. By the way, substances act on the organ via the brain, never directly on the organ. The sympathetic nervous system or the vagus is activated via the brain. There are sympathicotonic substances like antibiotics, chemo, cortisone. And there are vagatonic substances like Valium. Antibiotics in particular typically act on the cerebral medulla, whereas cortisone typically acts on the cerebral cortex. This is why, for example, the neurodermatitis patient is not given an antibiotic, he is given cortisone. Neurodermatitis is controlled by the cerebral cortex. But for an abscess, you get antibiotics. Only vitamins, enzymes, and hormones act directly on the organ. But all other substances, including coffee, affect the organ via the brain. This is even the case for vaccination. Why does one vaccinate? To create and train antibodies, so to speak, which are then to fight the evil microbes. Then, a large-scale attack comes, at least there are already a few soldiers present. This is how one imagines it. The only problem with this theory is, the body does not fight the microbes. It uses them. We need the microbes. We'll discuss vaccination a little bit more. You won't read much about it in Hamer's books, because it's just nonsense. I cannot vaccinate myself against any conflict. And the so-called carrier substances in vaccines are all neurotoxins. The vaccination process itself can be conflictive for a child. Plus, vaccinating does not prevent microbes. This is another common question from newcomers to GHK. Someone is vaccinated against tuberculosis, but that does not work. That cannot work at all. That's why they don't promise you vaccine protection like, you'll never have a tuberculosis now. That's absolute nonsense. It's the same with tetanus. What is tetanus?
Germanische Heilkunde is considered the greatest discovery in the history of humanity, by those people who have understood its underlying principle. While classical medicine is based on more than 5,000 hypotheses, the Germanische Heilkunde can be considered as the only medicine, which is scientifically verifiable. With Germanische Heilkunde, for the first time in the history of humanity as we know it, there is a medicine with which any patient case can be reproduced in a strictly scientific manner. More than 30 different universities have already confirmed this in the past. Nevertheless, the discovery of Dr. Hamer has been suppressed and denigrated for over 30 years. Take your health into your own hands, and learn about Germanische Heilkunde, while you are still healthy. Helmut Pilhar, one of 3 lecturers, officially appointed by Dr. Hamer for Germanische Heilkunde, offers you an extensive and complete seminar collection for this purpose, which is now also to be translated into the English language. This knowledge will change your view of conventional medicine, forever. You can find a direct link to Helmut Pilhar's seminar videos in the description, below this video.